Hello and welcome. Here are stories making rounds from outside Nigeria. Now, former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, a vocal critic of former President Donald Trump, has surrendered to authorities after being charged with mishandling classified information. Prosecutors allege Bolton shared sensitive national security documents with relatives while working on a book. He faces multiple counts under the Espionage Act, each carrying up to 10 years in prison. Bolton denies the allegations, insisting that he acted lawfully and accusing Trump of abusing his presidential powers. The indictment adds to concerns that the Trump administration is targeting political opponents, including former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Bolton is expected to appear in federal court in Maryland later today. Days after saying there was no reason to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping, U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed both leaders will meet in 2 weeks, signaling a possible easing of trade tensions. Now, Trump, who recently announced a 100% tariff on all Chinese imports, admitted that the move would be unsustainable in the long term.
Very well with China. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you. We're going to meet in a couple of weeks. We're going to meet in South Korea, actually, with President Xi and other people, too. But we're going to meet. We have a separate meeting. We'll see what happens with China. I've always had a great relationship with them, as you know. But they're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years. They made with Bush, with everybody. They made Obama, was terrible. The Abraham Accords are a miracle in a way. And the 4 countries that went in initially, including UAE, highly respected, big and highly respected, they stayed in, and they're doing incredibly well. I mean, they're basically trading with Israel and have access and everything else. I mean, it's good for everybody. I hope to see Saudi Arabia go in, and I hope to see others go in. I think when Saudi Arabia...
Away from that, a Polish court has refused a German extradition request for a Ukrainian man accused of involvement in the 2022 Nord Stream gas pipeline sabotage. Now, the court ruled that the request does not merit consideration and ordered his release. This comes just days after Italy's top court also declined to extradite another Ukrainian suspect linked to the same case. The Nord Stream pipelines, which carried Russian gas to Europe, were destroyed by powerful explosions months after Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
Na podstawie artykułu 607r paragraf 1 punkt 1 Kodeksu Postępowania Karnego odmówić władzom niemieckim wydania Wołodymyra Żurawlowa, uchylić środek zapobiegawczy w postaci tymczasowego aresztowania stosowany w sprawie niniejszej wobec Wołodymyra Żurawlowa i nakazać jego niezwłoczne zwolnienie. Wysadzenie infrastruktury krytycznej dowolnego państwa w czasie pokoju przez wrogie służby specjalne czy grupy terrorystyczne są sabotażem i stanowią przestępstwo sabotażu. Natomiast tego samego rodzaju działania podejmowane przez siły zbrojne, w tym siły specjalne, w czasie wojny, ale wojny sprawiedliwej, obronnej, na infrastrukturze obronnej, na infrastrukturze krytycznej agresora, nie są sabotażem.
To jest sygnał dla Niemiec do tego, że prawo należy rozumieć. Prawo należy interpretować z duchem, dla którego zostało stworzone. Prawo należy dostosowywać do tego, w jakich okolicznościach ma być ono stosowane, a nie w sposób instrumentalny, wykorzystane do tego, aby ścigać, tak jak w tej sytuacji, obywateli Ukrainy.
Finally, the Trump administration is under scrutiny over plans to redirect $1 billion in federal anti-terror funds, shifting resources from Democratic-led urban centers to Republican-controlled states. Now, at least 12 states have filed lawsuits accusing the government of political bias and punishing regions that disagree with its immigration stance. The administration, however, insists that the changes are based on a risk-informed analysis, one it says prioritizes border security and organized crime. But with major cities like New York, California, and Washington, D.C. facing significant funding cuts, questions are being raised about what this could mean for counterterrorism readiness and America's political balance. Joining us to discuss more on this is Bolu Michael-Biyi, a foreign policy analyst in Eswatini at the moment. Thank you so much, Bolu, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, Bolu, speak to us. Given the high-risk urban status, how much, how would such cuts affect counterterrorism readiness in America's largest cities?
Okay, thank you. You see, big cities like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, they're not just cities, they're quite symbolic. They represent like United States on the global stage. It shows their level of growth in terms of industrialization and, so they represent America in a great way. So cutting these funds from these big cities is a very huge security risk. I've lived in Chicago for a couple of months, and it's such a big city and high crime there. And I can't imagine that kind of city having its resources being cut. And this is even because while the funding is still there, there's still high crime. Now imagine if this funding is taken away from that kind of city. So it means that there'll be less money for the coordination, for the training of these security personnel, and also slower intelligence and very slow emergency response as well. They also face threats that are not physical. They face high levels of cyber crime, cyber attacks, and other lone wolf incidents. So when cutting the fund means cutting of their preparedness as well, and it's a very huge security gamble.
So, but does this shift truly reflect America's security realities, considering that most terror threats since 2010 have actually emerged from urban areas?
I don't think it honestly doesn't. Being that, the data showed that most of the threats that America has experienced in the last decade has been from outside. It's not has been from inside, rather. It's not from Mexico across the border. It's not from Canada. It's not from across the Atlantic Ocean. It's from within. It's from these urban centers. So when resources are taken away from these urban centers, with the hot zone for these threats and crime, then it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. So when the administration says that they're focusing on borders and organized crime, it seems like they're being tough on security, whereas it doesn't match the reality of everyday American. So to me, I feel it's more of a political move than a practical step when resources are being shifted from one state to another, simply because one state aligns more with the administration's goals or pursuits. So I believe that if the goal is genuinely the security and safety of every American, then there shouldn't be favoritism in terms of allocation of resources for security.
Now, speaking of resources being shifted from one state to another, we know that 12 Democratic-led states are challenging the policy in court, claiming political bias. So what precedent could this set for future federal funding and the balance of power between states and Washington?
Okay, I think the case would be a really defining one. If the court sides with the states, which is very likely, it shows that it's kind of emphasizing the fact that federal funding should be based on the need as against political alliances, or whether if a state is red or blue. But if the administration wins, which I think would not be the case for public policy reasons, but then it's opened the door for the future presidents to kind of misbehave in the same manner, redirecting resources to wherever they feel is necessary, even against data and expert analysis. So I think security is something that is so important and is a very dangerous territory to tread in. It's not just about terror grants. It could affect the healthcare system, it can affect the education, it can affect the climate funding as well. So it's not a fight about money alone, it's about the fairness of the administration, the fairness of the Trump administration. I personally believe that such move, by a president that's made by president meant to be president of the United States, not president of the Republican, it's not a reasonable move right now.
All right, now just before we let you go, Bolu, with domestic extremism responsible for majority of recent terror-related arrests, will this redistribution weaken national efforts to counter homegrown threats and even erode public confidence in the neutrality of security funding?
Yes, it will definitely, because domestic extremism, has been the #1 threat. It's currently the #1 threat that the United States is facing right now in terms of security. So redirecting funds from urban areas where these dangerous groups operate is kind of weakening the exact, network that they're meant to track and destroy in a way. And of course, the citizens would lose trust in the system if they feel like for them to walk safely on the streets, for them to feel safe in their neighborhood depends on their voting pattern. Then they will lose that sense of unity. They will lose that sense of confidence in the system if they feel like their security depends on whether they are voting blue or red. Because national security is a collective responsibility. But when people start to feel otherwise, then the confidence in the system will start to crumble in a very bad way.
All right, well, thank you so much, Bolu Michael-Biyi, for your time and for speaking on this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, that's our take on Beyond the Continent. Stay tuned for more in-depth conversation after the break.